We're excited to announce that our very own podcasting platform, Zencastr, has become a new sponsor to the show. Check out the podcast discount link in our show notes and stay tuned for why we love using Zen for the podcast.
You're listening welcome to the show. The Archaeology Podcast Network.
This is the CRM Archaeology Podcast. It's the show where we pull back the veil of cultural resources management, archaeology, and discuss the issues that everyone is concerned about. Welcome to the podcast. Hello and welcome to the CRM Archaeology Podcast, episode 228 for December 15th, 2021. I'm your host, Chris Webster. On today's show, we give you our massive list of holiday gift ideas, 2021 edition. So fill out your wish list because the CRM Archaeology Podcast starts right now. Welcome to the show, everyone. Joining me today is Bill in California.
Hello.
Doug in Scotland.
Actually, Houston today.
Houston. Wow, we're all in the United States.
Wow.
Nice.
Whoa.
Andrew in California.
Hey, what's up?
And Heather in California.
Hi, everyone.
And I'm in Reno this week. We just visited for the week. We're in Charlotte. That's where our RV is. But we'll be flying through Dallas. So Doug, for the first time in like 8 years, will be in the same place again. So there you go. Or since probably Scotland, since probably the EAA there. Yeah.
That was 2014. So yeah, you're not too far off there.
Not too far.
Actually,
Nice.
Chris, to be honest, I think that was the only time we'd actually ever been in the same country at the same time. No,
That might be. There was an SAA.
SAA only a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
Albuquerque.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway,
So
exciting.
Twice. Well, this will be the third time. Third time in like a decade plus.
Yeah, we've got like an hour and a half layover in Dallas today. So, come on, stop by, buy a ticket and come have a drink at the airport bar. All right. Speaking of,
if you do get like rerouted for some reason, you end up in Houston at like Hobby. My in-laws' place is only like 5 minutes away. So, just
nice.
let me know.
Yeah. We'll give you a call. Yeah. So, all right. Well, speaking of buying things for people, this is our holiday gift guide episode. I kind of decided this was going to be mine. We're trading off episode, like who plans what episode as we go along. And I thought I would do this because the timing is right. And we've done some of these in the past. Doug and Bill both remember this. We've done some holiday gift guide episodes in the past, but I don't feel like we've done one in a couple of years. I didn't really look at the research on this, but it just felt like we hadn't done one in a while, and it might be a good time to just bring these up. Now, we don't care what religion you are. We don't care if you even give gifts for holidays, because if you're just like somebody who your family or friends don't understand what you do and what to get you for your birthday or some other thing, then have them listen to this episode. It doesn't have to be holidays. It doesn't have to be Christmas. It doesn't have to be Hanukkah. It doesn't have to be Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Just this is things that archaeologists could tend to want and use. And I think we've got a nice breadth of experience here and people on board to give you some good ideas, and not necessarily even give you good ideas because you already know these things, but play this episode for your family and friends and give them some ideas and at least show them the show notes, because I'll have a lot of links in there by the time we're done, and probably even have links in there for things that we don't talk about because I've pulled together a lot of ideas and I'm just dropping a bunch of stuff on there. So by the way, I mentioned on those links, they're all Amazon links. And I know some people have some things about Amazon that they don't like, but I will tell you, those are not just gratuitous Amazon links for Amazon's sake. They are tied to the Archaeology Podcast Network. So if you click into Amazon through one of those links and you buy either the thing that is clicked, then fine, we get a tiny percentage. We get a few pennies off of that from Jeff Bezos, which we all know Jeff Bezos could stand to give us a little bit of money. So And the nice thing about these links is if you go to Amazon through one of those links, but you end up buying something else completely different, as long as you haven't closed your session, we still get a little bit of a kickback on whatever you buy. So if you just want to do some holiday shopping and you don't mind shopping on Amazon, then maybe click through one of those links and then do your shopping. And that will help out a small little podcast network, keep the lights on through the winter. So, all right. Well, the first two things that we're going to talk about aren't gear. And I put these at the top of the list because we only have like 4 things that's not gear. Archaeologists like gear. We like our things around us and efficiencies and stuff like that. So most of what we're going to talk about are like items and things you can have. But I thought we would bring up just a few things that people might not be thinking about that are a little off the wall and to be honest, might be a little harder to pay for. But they're interesting ideas. The one I have on here is pay off student loans. Now, I know That would be one hell of a gift for people, but you never know. You might have a grandparent or something that wants to, I don't know, do something with some money and they're just not really sure what to do with it. Or maybe you got an inheritance or something like that and you want to help somebody out. I don't know. It's a pretty generous thing, but I thought I would put it on there because people don't generally think about that because student loans are things that we live with all the time. And you just don't think that they'll ever get paid off sometimes. And in fact, I just paid mine off this year, which is crazy. So it's weird not having those because I've had student loans for 15 years or 20 years. Bill.
Yeah. As someone with a PhD.
Yeah, exactly. Full stop.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really know how to put this, but a lot of times asking other people to pay your bills for you kind of seems like that, unethical thing. Like when you ask for money to buy a home when you get married and stuff like that. And you're like, can we really ask for money? And I'm kind of like, yeah, I'd rather have money than a toaster. I mean, we already have a toaster.
Right.
We never have anyone nice over. So this nice, silverware, maybe we don't need it, but money, to buy a house. Yeah, we need that. This is falling in line with that, money to cover some of your expenses. I know it kind of seems unethical or whatever, or some people, they really don't, they want to ask for presents and they don't want to be rude. And so they don't ask for, the kind of stuff that can really help them out. But this one here, especially student loans, I mean, if you can even get a small chunk of that covered, if you're anything like me, you'll know just the freedom of having to not have to worry about that for just a few extra days. I mean, that's the kind of gift that keeps giving. So it might seem kind of unethical to ask for money, but getting your student loans covered or a piece of that actually is probably one of the most functional gifts I could think of asking for.
Amen.
I don't think it's unethical. Like it's a really weird thing. Like it's basically a societal weird hang up that we have where like, so I just say this from like, you slightly change cultures. So moving to like the UK and stuff, where like, in America, you don't ask people how much money they make like that, like that's a very big faux pas. Whereas in the UK, like pretty much every job, not every, but like there's none of these things like, occasionally you see like a recommendation of like, we'll pay like, with experience and stuff like that. That still happens. But I'd say like 80% of the jobs, maybe 90% actually give like a salary range. And that's not just for like your field tech, that goes all the way to the top. Exactly like how much CEOs make. I mean, you technically in the States, you can look up a 990 form for charities and see it. You can see the same thing in the UK, but it's not as big of a thing. But there is still that hang up about like asking for money for gifts. But man, like I personally am against that as a hang up or a social norm or whatnot. Because, gifts are nice, but that is a gift in itself. And sometimes you need money to spend on things such as student loans. And it'll be way more helpful than like a second toaster or I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, a hoodie, yet another hoodie or a t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, I think Bill, I liked your analogy too. Like, people don't have a problem like with their first house. Typically, sometimes you'll ask for help on the down payment or something like that from family or parents or something like that. And that's not something that I would say has got any sort of stigma towards it. I think like a lot of people do that. Your parents might not have the money, but asking for it is definitely, something that people do, especially for that first house. So I don't know, maybe if you're in a different position, you're an archaeologist, you're traveling around, you're not ready to buy a house, but maybe you want to cut down on some of that debt and instead of perhaps buying a house right now, maybe you want to wait 10 years on that and you can save your own money, but you can't save any money because you're paying student loan payments every month. So maybe have help getting those covered. So, or at least getting part of it covered. If you've just got a bachelor's degree, then chances are, unless you went to Harvard for your bachelor's degree in archaeology, then more than likely you can get that paid off with something like equivalent to a down payment on a house, which is an absurd statement to make in the United States. But anyway,
if you live in California, you can pay off your student loans with a down payment on a house, man.
Yeah. Well, if you've got in-state tuition in just about anywhere, then you probably can, right? And
so the down payment on a house here will cover student loans in the other 49 states pretty straight pretty easily.
Right.
I mean, you could use credit cards for 4 years and still be able to pay that off with just the down payment on a house here.
I was just thinking, it just popped to my head, at weddings, they have the money dance where the bride and the groom, and they have like a little satchel. I'm like, maybe graduation parties should have that. I mean, if you have a big graduation party, you have a money dance.
Just put your field backpack on and leave it unzipped and let your friends and family just throw cash in there.
There you go.
That is hilarious. I love that. Yeah.
Or, the money lays when you graduate. Anyway, we're getting off topic, but.
Well, hey, I mean, if we were looking for gifts, if you guys want to get me a money lay for like Christmas, I am not going to like say no to that.
That's a little close to our off topic chat.
Yes. Yeah, luckily the audience can't see the chat that's happening on the side here, which is completely different than what we're talking about.
We're keeping things spicy on the back chat. So
yeah, we're talking about gifts you can give each other, but not stuff we're going to mention on the show probably. So anyway, let's continue on since we have a lot to talk about. So another thing I had on here was, and this one you might need to help them with, put it on your list or something like that. I put conference attendance and cover fees or travel, something like that. So you could give somebody like an airline voucher or something to cover fees for whatever they need to fly to a conference. Or if they get more specific, obviously it's hard to pay for someone's conference fees because they have to go and register and pay for it. But you could just put that on your list and say, hey, it's going to cost me $300 to attend the SAs this year, and I want to do it. I'm going to put that on my Christmas list, and someone can give you a Visa gift card or something and say, this is what this is for, it's a symbolic thing. So that's really good because a lot of people, especially people who just got out from their bachelor's degree, their companies may not be paying for them to go to any conferences yet because they're not writing. And typically if you're not presenting, your company's not paying for you to go. So, but you still probably should go to some of these to just network and get the experience and see what they're all about. And, and gain some knowledge, hopefully, along the way. So attending a few of these is a good idea. So put that on your list.
I have one. This is experiential in a way. I put AAA, and that is not American Anthropological Association. It's American Automobile Association.
Nice.
I think a AAA card for the year is a fantastic gift for the archaeologist, because you get roadside assistance, and the AAA offices have like tons of maps and what to do in certain areas. And I find them just a lifeline for kind of the archaeologist out in the boonies.
That's
I would agree. And you already kind of brought it up, Chris, but I think it's still good to mention that allow your company to give you a gift. And you never know, even if you're not presenting, like my company, we will pay. We're paying quite a few conference fees for a lot of our junior staff and even some as needed. We do that because, first of all, they can help. Even if you're not presenting, you can help like man a booth, or you can help, hand out swag or whatever. And so you don't know if you don't ask. I mean, don't be hurt if they're not going to do it, but you don't know if you don't ask. So don't ever let the cost of a conference stop you. If you really can't afford it, ask. You never know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Really good point.
I'd also say some conferences can be quite flexible on letting other people pay. I was actually just thinking of, okay, well, now it seems like decades ago, but 3 years ago when we still were doing conferences pretty regularly, there was a initiative set up to like basically have people donate to pay for people who couldn't afford to go to conferences. TAG did that in the UK. Lorna Richardson put that together. I think they ended up sending like 15 or 20 people or something to the conference. So there's, some conferences will be, especially smaller ones, will be a lot more flexible on being like, yeah, it's so-and-so, you just send us a check or just pay via PayPal or whatever you want. And we'll accept that as the person. You don't have to go through like that huge problem of trying to register and putting in their email and all that stuff. So, I think it's still quite doable for, especially like smaller regional conferences where, I mean, it's all done almost by hand anyways. They're very willing to let someone else pay for someone to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Good idea. All right. So a couple more things before we round out this segment. So I had a pretty quick one, National Park Pass. I think they're still $80, if I want to say. Just a quick side note, there are a number of veterans in archaeology, and I found out this year, it used to be service-connected disabled veterans got free lifetime pass to national parks, and I've got one of those, but I did find out it was just this year, I want to say, that any veteran gets basically a free national park pass for life. And that's pretty cool. You just have to go to any national park and say, I'm a veteran. Show them you probably have a veteran's card. If you don't, you should go get one from the VA. But show them your veteran's card, and you basically get a national park pass for life, which is crazy. It gets in people in your car too. Yeah, it doesn't cover like camping fees or anything, but it does get your carload of people in basically for free. So, thank you for your service for, being a veteran. So, but anyway, I think if you don't have that, obviously, it's still pretty valuable. Again, I think they're $80 for the year still, National Park Pass, and that's a good, reasonable gift.
They're 80. Also, like they have a bunch of other ones. So if you have like a disability, you can go as well. And then also, some people like come into archaeology later in life, and so if you're pushing 62 or over, it still costs like a tiny bit of money, but like, so for like the price of like a 1 year, you can basically get a lifetime pass. So for $80, if you're in there, you can get a lifetime pass to all the national parks. So it's a hell of a good deal.
Yeah. And if you have a kid who's in the year where they learn about their state history, so in the case of California, 4th grade, for that year, while the child's in 4th grade or the summer, they can get a free year pass to the national parks. So
there you go.
Even if you miss it, like if you already had one and it expires later on, you can still apply in the summertime after that student's gone through 4th grade and get a year of national parks access. Nice. All right. Well, the last one here for this segment is, and Heather, you put this on here, offer to pay to continuing education. What are your thoughts around that in 30 seconds?
I would say, just some classes, maybe at the local community college, if you're trying to buff up certain things, like, so you want to learn GIS, you already have your bachelor's, you want to learn, take a couple of classes in GIS, the National Park Service, there's quite a few of the different associations that have workshops that you can go to either online or in person, and even though you've already done, let's say you're already doing field work or whatever, but you want to learn, let's say GPR would be an excellent skill to have. So, they do tend to be pretty expensive. And if your company isn't going to pay for it for you and you're just building up your own skill set, even a contribution would be helpful. So I think anything to round out your skill set.
That is a good idea. And I think you have to, obviously the people buying you these gifts don't know what you need or what you're interested in. So do the research, give them some help. I'm going to put down something in the show notes for a friend of mine who started, I went to grad school with him in University of Georgia, and he started basically a GPR company. It was intended to do GPR for projects and stuff like that, but he found that basically training was more appropriate, and they'd still do GPR stuff, mostly for large commercial things, but it's called Bigman Geophysical. Bigman is his last name, Dan Bigman Geophysical, and they do a lot of really good, high quality GPR training. In fact, they'll come to your company and train your whole company. If you bought a GPR and don't know how to use it, just come there and train you. So I've seen them go to Australia. Yeah, they've gone all over the place. So, I mean, you can read the book, but if you don't really understand how to read those parabolas and what they're telling you, then it can be challenging. So, all right. Well, let's take a break and come back and talk about everybody's favorite topic, gear. Back in a minute. Chris Webster here for the Archaeology Podcast Network. We strive for high quality interviews and content so you can find information on any topic in archaeology from around the world. One way we do that is by recording interviews with our hosts and guests located in many parts of the world all at once. We do that through the use of Zencastr. That's Zencastr. Zencastr allows us to record high quality audio with no stress on the guest. Just send them a link to click on, and that's it. Zencastr does the rest. They even do automatic transcriptions. Check out the link in the show notes for 30% off your first 3 months, or go to zencastr.com and use the code CRMARC. Looking to expand your knowledge of X-rays and imaging in the archaeology field? Then check out An Introduction to Paleoradiography, a short online course offering professional training for archaeologists and affiliated disciplines. Created by archaeologist, radiographer, and lecturer James Elliott, the content of this course is based upon his research and teaching experience in higher education. It is approved by the Chartered Institute for Archaeologists as 4 hours of training. That's in the UK, for those of you that don't know. So don't miss out on this exciting opportunity for professional and personal development. For more information on pricing and course structure, visit paleoimaging.com. That's PALEO imaging.com, and look for the link in the show notes to this episode. Welcome back to episode 228, CRM Archaeology Podcast. And we're talking gear now in our holiday gift guide episode, 2021 edition. And we want to bring up maybe some cooking stuff first, because that's always good. And you might think, why would I give archaeologists cooking things? Obviously, if you're listening to this and wondering that, then you probably are an academic archaeologist, because CRM archaeologists who work in the field always live in hotel rooms. And it's nice to have good, efficient gear to have when you're in the hotel room, because you usually don't have a lot of space in your car either. So having stuff that maybe is multifunctional or is at least good, high quality is something that would be good. And we don't always buy ourselves the nice, high quality stuff. We buy the cheap stuff. So put the good stuff on your Christmas list.
To get the food there in the first place, I had on my list like a nice cooler and a nice insulated lunch bag. Like we were saying earlier in archaeology, we tend to just use the crap stuff. So like a nice, not too huge cooler would be really cool. And one of those really nice lunch bags that's really insulated, the soft ones, those are great and last a long time.
Yeah, I put some Yeti stuff on there. We've got a Yeti smaller cooler and a big cooler, but the smaller one would be great for lunches. But they're like $100, right? What archaeologist is going to buy that for themselves? So put that on your list.
And if you want to get really, really inexpensive, something my mom had, because she spent a lot of time in hotels for her work, and it's just a little small heating coil. So you just stick it in a cup of water. So if you don't like having a lot of, bigger, bulkier stuff, although it seems like the one that Bill showed is smaller, but it is a go-to. It's really small, and you can just quickly, literally in 10 seconds, heats up a whole cup of, water. It's an option.
Yeah, it's worth it to get. Those coil things, I think you can get one for like a $5 or $10 or something, really cheap. And it's better to use tools that are made for purpose. Like, just going back to the whole people using like irons for like cooking food and stuff, just don't, because a lot of clothes now have those lifetime chemicals in it for basically trying to keep clothes waterproof. So if anyone's ironing, basically what you're putting in your food is going to be those that whole set of lifetime chemicals that cause cancers and all sorts of horrible things. And I've seen things where like people like clean their socks in like coffee makers and stuff like that, which is just disgusting. But you don't know what's going on in your hotel rooms or motel rooms. And it really is worth it to bring some purpose-made equipment that will probably keep you from having cancer, ideally. And also just like a very horrible yuck factor as well.
Yeah. One of the things I put on there along these lines is because I was looking for something, as a lot of people know, my wife and I moved into a 36-foot Class A RV. So we're always looking for stuff that's, a little more space saving, which is no different than people traveling around archaeology. When our first few years together, we had all our worldly possessions in a Toyota 4Runner, all our camping gear, hotel gear, survey gear, dig gear, everything we needed. And we lived on the road for several years, just traveling from job to job. So always looking for stuff that was more efficient. But one thing I found recently, and I haven't bought one yet, but I probably will, we were looking for a hot water kettle, and I was looking for maybe some RV type ones. And this one thing on the list is a collapsible kettle, and it's basically silicone, and it collapses down when you're not using it. And you could actually slide it into like the front pouch on a suitcase, to be honest, if you wanted to. And there's a lot of stuff in the RV space that you might not be thinking, or the camping space. We're used to seeing camping things, but start looking up like RV related cooking equipment and stuff like that too, because there's a lot of things in there that you wouldn't think to look in that space for space saving type things. So it's really good.
Also, depending on what country you're in, look at now you can get most stuff shipped. It may take a month or so, but check out Japan and Korea, and like just start Googling, space saving, whatever it is. And chances are they have a space saving version that you can eventually buy.
Sure.
And you just got to make sure that you have the same voltage and for whatever country you're in, or a converter or whatnot. But like, man, anything that you've seen in an RV, they probably did in Japan like 70 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Just to save space.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the other things in the cooking vein that we have on here, and my wife and I were converts to these, several years ago, is an Instant Pot. And again, they make a lot of real knockoff Instant Pot type things. Basically, it's a pressure cooker. Okay. They make a lot of knockoff ones that you can get for, $20, $25, $30. But again, archaeologists aren't probably going to buy themselves the good ones. And what do you get from the good ones? Well, you get a longer lasting product that's better made and probably has some more options in it. Like the one we have I think it is the Instant Pot brand, and we've had it for years at this point. But it, is a rice cooker. You can sear and cook like meat, like you cook a steak down on it if you want to. You could put on a roast or a soup or something and set the timer and then have it cooking in your hotel room while you're gone and have nice, because it works like a crock pot too. And have that waiting for you when you get home from a nice cold day in the field. So a lot of good functionality with an Instant Pot, and they make different sizes. I don't know if you can get this for the smaller ones, but they also make, like, I know the Instant Pot brand and I think the Ninja brand also have like an air fryer attachment. It's basically a different lid, so you can air fry with it. We do hard boiled eggs in the Instant Pot because, again, we live in an RV. So when we're using the stove, it's using propane, and we try to conserve our propane when we can, especially in the winter, because we use propane for heat as well. So, and we have a convection microwave, but it's just easier to do stuff in the Instant Pot sometimes when you got power. So anyway, lots of things you can do with those. And I definitely put one on here, but tell somebody what you actually need size wise, because I think it just put the basic 6-quart on here, but there's lots of different sizes that you can get, especially if you're traveling a lot. Heather.
Yeah, I would say I love the idea of cooking in the hotels is essential, and especially definitely trying to save money. But I think one nice thing would the thing about gifts is to spoil people, right? So a gift certificate to restaurants would be really nice because you're eating out of your hotel a lot. People are trying to save their money as much as possible, and they don't get paid a lot. So they use the per diem, right? A lot of times to make up for the small hourly rate that they get. Yeah. So I think restaurant gift cards is good, and making sure that the restaurant gift card you get covers a lot of different restaurants. So because archaeologists travel in different parts of the country, and there's not an Applebee's everywhere, or there's, so true. I think maybe taking some time, doing some research, and either figuring out what region in particular your archaeologist works in, and making sure that you have a restaurant gift card that covers restaurants that would be in that area.
Yeah, and along those lines, I don't know who put this on the list, but gift cards for other things that, if you don't want to be specific with some of the gear we're talking about, gift cards for places where you can buy this stuff like REI, Patagonia, Mountain Hardware I see on here. There's different places like Shields and Cabela's and, all the typicals.
Right. I had REI on my list. I'd sort of gotten back to REI after not buying too much from them for a while. And I've forgotten just how good they are with things like returns. They're really good with returns, So like you get somebody some boots, they don't quite fit. Their return policy's easy peasy.
Mm-hmm. And our company has, and lots of companies are now starting to get some, deals where you give your company's name and you get a discount. So a lot of times people just forget. And if you're an as needed for lots of different companies, I bet you there's at least one company that has a deal with Columbia. Our company has a deal with Columbia.
Totally.
So we get discounts. So ask, and especially if that's the one nice thing of being as needed is that you're working for lots of different companies. So you can take advantage of things like that from all the different companies, where if you're just a full-timer, you can only use it from the company that you work for. So
right. I could even see them having a deal with somebody like Wolverines, for steel-toed boots. Like that's a really common one, and those are great. That's another one I had on my list, like Wolverine boots. I always use those in CRM.
And REI has amazing sales. I mean, they seem, you always think REI, that's really expensive, but they have like twice a year, they had these really great sales. Patagonia actually has the same thing. So does Mountain Hardware, and there's a few others. So, start start doing your homework and figure out when those big sales are.
I would, I don't know, guys. I think this somewhat goes back to like our first segment. I know gift cards are nice and all, but I'm actually really anti-gift card. I think you should just give people cash instead, because you end up with either odd amounts on your gift card where it's like, oh, I only have like $6 left, and so you just never remember to spend it, or you lose the gift card or whatnot. And then also, like, it depends on the state, but essentially most of them, after like, if you forget to use it or you don't use the full amount, they start taking off. I don't know. It's like, it depends on the gift card, but like $2 or $3 per month or something that you basically lose until they've taken back all that money. And I mean, you could just do a Google, but it's something like billions upon billions of dollars are lost each year to unused gift cards. And you're basically giving the money to, okay, so REI, I appreciate that. They're really cool. It's a co-op. I'm happy if I don't spend a few extra bucks at like REI and it goes back in. Because also, if you're an REI member, you get a dividend at the end of the year anyways, and it somewhat comes back, yada, yada. But, you're giving off, I don't know, an Amazon gift card. So you're basically just adding, I don't know, an extra rocket to Bezos' spaceship or something like that. Like,
I agree.
I don't know. I know there's a lot of hang up on the social aspect of giving cash, but I think sometimes like cash can be definitely better than gift cards, where so much money is lost on gift cards that it feels like we're just
I agree,
giving
but some
money
people
away.
just won't do it. Some people just won't do it. So,
right.
I mean, like all of these, and I totally agree with you, Doug. But we could say that about all of these. Like you're going to give me a kettle. Well, I may not like that kettle, right? So just give me cash. And some people just won't do it and I don't think it's because they're trying to be jerks. I just think that people want to have a personalized gift. They want to feel like they're giving you something that they put some thought into. And then, no,
and I have to say, in my own experience, of all the gift cards I've ever gotten, I've never been like, damn it, a gift card. I've been like, yes.
Yeah, but
all right.
A gift card also isn't personalized though. Like a gift card is basically like money with an extra step in it.
It's personalized though if you give it to a specific, like you're saying, okay, you're like the national park. Well, I guess that's not a gift card, but if you're doing REI or whatever, you put some thought into it, I guess. I don't know. Some people are funny that way. I have no problem giving cash.
I know people are funny, but I don't like a gift card is just like not quite cash, but putting extra like requirements on people to spend the money how you want them to spend it.
That's right. But it's still awesome.
Yeah, but what's even more
hold on.
just cold hard cash.
Maybe a compromise because people don't like sending cash in the mail either, right? So maybe a compromise is something I mentioned earlier, a Visa gift card. You can do like it's basically a credit card with money on it, right? And you just use it till it's gone. And I doubt money would even be left on there because unless you throw it in your wallet, you forget about it.
Yeah, but when you buy those, you have to give like 15% to the man or something like that. You know what I mean? So
there's always a trade-off. So
you don't have to send cash. There's things called like
Venmo.
Okay, just to go back to 1990, PayPal, folks.
Wow.
And we know everyone has those accounts because at some point you were forced to sign up to buy something with a PayPal account, and you could transfer money to people. And there's also a bajillion apps out there that transfers money, so you could be social and cool, or you could just do a bank transfer or a check.
If you guys could give me a gift card wrapped in cash, that would be cool.
I'm never giving Doug a gift card. Ever.
It's true. It's true.
To be honest, Heather, when you were saying like personalize it, I was just thinking like, what you could do is like personalize a money clip and then put money inside the money clip and hand that over. I'd be cool with that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, on that note, let's end this segment before it gets really out of hand. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about some more gear in segment 3. Back in a minute. You may have heard my pitch for membership. It's a great idea and really helps out. However, you can also support us by picking up a fun t-shirt, sticker, or something from a large selection of items from our TeePublic store. Head over to archpodnet.com/shop for a link. That's archpodnet.com/shop to pick up some fun swag and support the show. Welcome back to episode 228. And just so you guys know, in case you don't hear him, Bill had to leave us. So it'll just be Andrew, Heather, Doug, and I. So we're going to continue talking about these. And again, we're kind of hitting some things and dwelling on them for a little bit and giving our opinions on them and talking about them. But there's a lot of stuff in the show notes, like a lot of stuff that we just don't have time to mention in this show. In fact, this could be like a 4-part episode, to be honest, given how much we are talking about this stuff. But we're putting a lot of things in the show notes. So definitely take a look down at your phone right now and you'll see all the links to the things in our show notes. So all right. Well, one of the things that we were just talking about on the break, it's a big one for Doug, it's a big one for everybody, big one for me, is battery packs. We're all being asked to use our smartphones and tablets and things like that in the field more and more and more. And even if you're not using it for work, maybe you're on a camping project or something like that, and you just need some extra power, to power your devices. Well, again, archaeologists tend to get the smaller, cheaper things, which might be a 8,000 or 10,000 milliamp battery pack, which is okay. But if you're going to be out for a longer period of time or you need to charge more than one device, getting some of the bigger ones might be better. And the Zero Lemon 30,000 milliamp battery pack is my absolute favorite. And I've had 2 of those for a long time. One of them, after 6 years, finally the lithium just exploded. And it didn't explode, like expanded and busted out the pack. I think it was too hot. Wow. It was just old. So, but that's the first time in a really long time that's happened. And I immediately bought another one from them. They're a little over $100, I think, but the new version of it has USB-C fast charging of the battery and USB-C charging out, because a lot of things are USB-C these days. I can, in fact, if my laptop is off, because it won't power my laptop, the output isn't high enough, but it will charge my laptop if I turn it off and I just need some extra juice. But it also has the wireless charging right on top of it as well. It's just really well put together, rugged batteries. Zero Lemon, check those out. I think I put a link to the Zero Lemon store from Amazon on the show notes. So check that out. But there's lots of, in fact, I just got one from Indiegogo. It's a crowdfunded campaign that should deliver in a couple of weeks here. So maybe we'll comment on that on the Archaeotech podcast. But this one has a high power output and will actually charge my laptop, and also has a nice little display on it. So there's a lot of cool things you can get out there.
I think
Doug
for me,
or Heather.
Yeah, my go-to is the power converter for the car. That is saved my life so many times. I go in the field. I like to go in the field a lot, especially if I'm not able to do the field work myself, but I like to go out there and support the crew. And so I'm doing my work, and there's just no way, even with the best battery, like you said, a lot of the battery packs do not have juice to charge up a computer. So I just keep, and on top of that, I got my phone going. I'm using my phone as a hotspot. It's just sucking juice everywhere. So I use that power converter. I highly recommend. I made the mistake the first time. I wasn't going to pay a little bit more. I'm able to expense it, but still, I'm still conscious of the money. And 2 plugs, at least 2 plugs, and then you want 2 USB or whatever the new Lightning plug is.
USB-C.
And thank you. And having that, the converters, most converters have these multiple inputs. And I think that is it's essential. I don't know how anybody goes without it, actually. So,
yeah.
So this might just be like a difference in regional, power and stuff. So like the UK, basically our outlets pump out twice the voltage as the US. And so maybe that's why, but basically all the power packs we get, you could you not only charge a laptop, but you can run it off of it. So the power packs I have,
makes sense.
It's basically an extra battery, and it gives it 2 or 3 hours of like a laptop powering pretty hardcore through doing stuff, and then a phone that. I don't know, it's 20 hours or it's something ridiculous if you just wanted to charge your phones. We use them, so I mainly use them for a lot of the video work, and basically it adds 8 hours to a camcorder or anything like that.
Nice.
So yeah, I think you should be able to, at least in North America, find some that could actually charge up a a laptop, like, run a laptop off of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've bought a bunch over the years. Some say they will, but then get super hot to the point where you're a bit like, maybe I'm just gonna turn off the power pack for a little bit and let it cool down. That's fair enough. The one we brought one over on the plane with us because, a lot of the planes now when you're going international have plugs, but not all of them. And so we brought it just in case, like, we didn't want the tablet to die on our daughter, so that she would scream for like 3 or 4 hours on like a 12-hour journey. But like, that works. We can basically charge a tablet for like 8 hours as well. Tablets and phones are practically the same thing these days. But it works, and it doesn't get too hot. It has the wireless charging, all that sort of stuff. And it's the pack I have that we use right now is, I don't know, it's Chinese company, but I do know that it's all powers. I do know that they have an American version because they switch out the outlets for British and American, and they've put them too close together. So actually, you can only use. Actually, it has 2 plugs, but they're too close together, so you can't actually use them 2 plugs in the UK because our plugs are just so much larger.
They're giant, yeah.
But they basically designed it for North America.
Nice.
I got it for, I don't know, like £100 on Amazon. I guess we're corporate shills for Amazon now, so there'll be a link there. But it's good stuff. I think you can definitely find ones that will allow you to run your laptop as a spare video, or not spare video, spare battery.
Yeah. And a quick note on that, if you're curious about how much it would take to run your laptop, just look at your current power block, whether it's an Apple white one or the black thing that comes through most PCs. Look on it and look for the output. The output should be there. Like, I know for most of the MacBook Pros, it's 85 watts. And if you don't have a battery pack that's putting out 85 watts, that's the power. It might have 30,000 milliamp hours. That's how much juice is inside of it. But the force with which that's coming out is the wattage. And that's what determines what you can actually run with that. So look for that number. That's what that new one I got on Indiegogo's got 100 watt power output. So it can power basically just about any laptop. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Mine's 65. I just looked at that.
Yeah. Mine's 65. I think some are 85, some are 65.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the crazy part is, like, is also, so like the UK, it puts out, but almost all laptops have the same, basically your
requirements.
Plug is going to downgrade. Right. Is going to take it down. So like you can basically plug in anything. So I think they do it because the market, you're supposed to be able to use it for anything, not just laptops over in the UK. Yeah. But that's like your laptop.
That's why the plugs get hot. Yeah, that's why the plugs get hot, because that's laws of thermodynamics, right? Like the energy is not created or destroyed; it's just converted into heat. So as it's taking that massive UK power and dropping it down for your laptop, then it's got to go somewhere, and it comes out as heat.
My power gift is a lantern / flashlight combo.
Ooh.
I love these things. They're usually made by the battery companies like Energizer, Everready, and you can find these for different costs, real cheap, like $12 and then up. And you often find them in like hurricane preparedness packs if you're looking for that, on Amazon. But we use these all the time in the field because you can use it for a flashlight when you need a flashlight, and then you just click it up and it becomes a lantern, which you can hang out in your tent or you hang out in your room. They're great. And the bigger ones that use D batteries, they do have USB ports. I don't know how long you could charge your phone for, but in a pinch, it'll work. So I love those things for the field.
Nice. Yeah, I just found one on Amazon. Sorry about that. Oh, no, it's called Alps Wolf rechargeable camping lantern. Yeah, these are really cool. So it's also a 4,000 milliamp hour power bank. This one is, wow, that is so versatile. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, Heather, did you have something else on this?
Yeah, not on power, but if you wanted to segue into, we're mentioning a lot of gifts that are like $100 or more. So I think for people that want to give their archaeologists that they love a nice gift, but they don't have $100 to give, I think there's like I have a few options. just kind of power through them really quick. Technu or IVX. Those are expensive, and you can buy a bottle of them. It's like $30, and you look at it, you're like, as an archaeologist, there's so many other things that you could spend money on. To have somebody buy you Technu or IVX, I know it's not romantic or exciting, but it's a lifesaver, and especially the IVX. I personally buy in the economy size. So they're a lot more expensive, but I buy the economy size and I have them, and I create, that's one of the things, sometimes I create little bottles as a gift for the crew to, have for the rest of the year. And it's not for Christmas, just a thinking of you gift. But Write in the Rain books are great.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes Write in the Rain, but they are expensive. And so you can get these packets, and they come in all different types. You can get the yellow ones, right? The field books. You can get the small ones. My son, who's in the Army, he uses the small, like, spiral ones that are kind of spiral at the top. Those are great. But sometimes people like to have the thicker ones. I like the smaller ones so that you can maybe, if you're on a few month project, you can just have it. Just that's your book for that project.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Another really nice luxury item. It's not something you really need, but. And I will say the person who taught me this was Andrew, which is 101. I mean, it's really archaeology 101. Yeah. But we're always writing our field notes, right? But we're never writing. I think a lot of people make a big mistake in not writing their own personal diary of their own field notes. So you write your field notes and then you give it to the company or whoever, and then you never have that. And then also there's notes that are fun, people that you meet, funny things that happen. There's so many stories that you just forget down the years, and then you meet them and, remember when this happened? You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of that for years. So if you have a field book, and then, spoiling your archaeologist by getting a really nice leather bound book with lots of pages so that they can chronicle their life as an archaeologist. I think that would be super cool.
Totally.
Yeah. And then another cheap or inexpensive gift is a 5-gallon bucket organizer. Every field person should have a 5-gallon bucket organizer. It's so great because you can just put stuff in the 5-gallon bucket, but then you can also keep your tools in or outside the bucket. Those are awesome. You can also do a tool belt organizer, but a lot of people don't like having that weight around their waist. But there's vest organizers, lots of small things. Then you can rock pick. A lot of times people, they just don't have the money, but they're told, oh, you're going to be on this. Maybe they're doing cross-train where they're going to be a paleo arc monitor. You have to have a rock pick, and you just go and get a rock pick at Home Depot. And it's not the best one you can get. So being able to spoil your archaeologist by upscaling their tools is awesome, because a nice tool is so much better than the crappy Home Depot tool.
Totally.
Sun protected clothing is a thing that a lot of people won't buy for themselves. The cooling bandana, if you were like, I only have $20 to spend on my archaeologist, the cooling bandana is awesome. Or the hard hat shield, where it has like a little flap in the back. It has an extra sun visor in the front, because you can't really wear a hat. It's hard to wear a baseball cap with the hard hat. And the hard hats have a very small brim, and they don't give you that sun protection on your face. So having that extra shield, and there's ones that have a shield and a flap all in one. That's an inexpensive.
I love those hard hat visor things. Those things are killer.
Yeah.
Along those lines, let me pause on that real quick, because I put upgrading your PPE, basically. And I know companies tend to provide that, but to be honest, company provided PPE stinks and is gross.
Yes.
So it's and companies can't do anything about that. They have to provide something just in case. But really, it's like, I feel like assembling your steel toe boots, your vest, and your hard hat is like building your own lightsaber as a a serial archaeologist, right? So get a nice vest that you can has enough pockets so you can put your stuff in and carry what you need, but also a really good quality hard hat. If you got to wear that damn thing all day long. My God, I put a really cool like carbon fiber one on here, just that I found on here. That's really neat, that nobody would ever buy for themselves. They're stupid expensive, right? And I've got one that I can't remember the name of it, but it's also in that kind of vein. but better than the cheap ones. Plus it's like your head. I mean, there's that, but a decent hard hat, and we already put boots on here, and but just upgrading your PPE, put some of that stuff on your list.
I would do a watch, like a Timex Expedition digital watch. I love those things. They're $35. I lived with that. Also, like a Casio G-Shock or the Casio Dura, which is a $50 dive watch, and that thing is killer too. So those are really good for archaeology.
Oh man, socks, guys! Like I piss off my mom like every couple of years. She's like, oh, don't you want something special and nice? I'm like, you don't understand like how a really good pair of socks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I'm not talking like, you go down to like Target and get your 12-pack of cotton, whatever. No, I'm talking like go to REI, find their mountain climbing winter, we're going to Everest expedition socks. And those things are like worth their weight in gold, and they're also not like $100, but like those things. I mean, like if you're working in any sort of like, okay, so I'm talking winter socks now. So anyone who's like working in the cold, they're brilliant. In the UK, you basically work year round, so it gets crap. Socks that like also wick away your sweat, or if they get wet, they're not basically just gone. But you can also do summer socks. So like there's some really good hiking socks that essentially keep your feet dry, which if you're stuck in a desert and basically you're sweating the whole time, it's amazing to have like dry socks and not get back to, or humid places where you get back to like the hotel and then you take off your socks and your feet are pruned because like you've just been standing in a swamp most of the time. Yeah, those I could not recommend more to anyone. Like if you really love your archaeologists, get them like those $15-$20 pair of socks. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like they will love you for it.
Yep.
Yeah, I put a link to Smartwool socks. Those are kind of my go-to because the Smartwools, to be honest, I wear them all year round. They've got good padding. You can get the super thick ones, but if you get like their mid-grade ones, I use them for winter. I use them for summer. I use them pretty much all the time and don't generally get blisters from them. And they're just really great socks. So anyway, I think that's enough for today. I got a plane to catch, so that's gotta slam this one out. But take a look at our show notes. I don't think we've ever had a show with this many links in it. It's going to be a real bear to put together from an editing standpoint, just creating the show notes. But man, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. So head over to archpodnet.com/CRM arc. What is our thing? CRM Arc Podcast /228. Or just look down at your phone and click on something, and it'll take you straight to the website or to one of the links that we have here. So check that out. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
That's it for another episode of the CRM Archaeology Podcast. Links to some of the items mentioned on the show are in the show notes for this podcast, which can be found at www.archpodnet.com/CRMArchPodcast. Please comment and share anywhere you see the show. If you'd like us to answer a question on a future episode, email us. Use the contact form on the website, or just email chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com. Support the show and the network at archpodnet.com/members. Get some swag and extra content while you're there. Send us show suggestions and interview suggestions. We want this to be a resource for field technicians everywhere, and we want to know what you want to know about. Thanks to everyone for joining me this week. Thanks also to the listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you in the field. Goodbye. Thanks to everyone for joining me this week. Thanks also to the listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you in the field. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Happy holidays, everyone. Spoil your archaeologists.
Goodbye.
See you guys next time.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Culturo Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
Thanks again for listening to this episode and for supporting the Archaeology Podcast Network. If you want these shows to keep going, consider becoming a member for just $7.99 a month. That's cheaper than a venti quad eggnog latte. Go to archpodnet.com/members for more info.